boxing fans, what do you say? What do you know? What are you doing? Old school saying here. Little special edition for you today. Went out in the basement, did some cleaning up. The wife put me up to it. I had to do it. And lo and behold, look what I discovered, my old boxing collection. I got magazines here. I got KO Magazine, Ring Magazine. I got Boxing Illustrated. I got some Sports Illustrated here, stuff that with some special big fights. I got about 150 different magazines here. Probably collected over 300, through the years or, whatever, losing them, throwing them out, whatever. Wish I would have saved them all, but I got some freaking gems here. Stuff going back all the way to 1973. Just brings back a whole lot of memories. A couple of specials here. I'll take you back into a little bit of history. You see here, my earliest ones here. I think that's 73. It's the second Ali Frazier fight. Got the Ali Spinks, and I got a special edition here of Roberto Duran. I think that was 1978. These are my three specials. But, the rest of the collection covers a long, long span. A lot of stuff from the 80s. A lot of Mike Tyson stuff. There's Jerry Coetzee. I got some of these covered up. Hagler. Mike Tyson. Hector Macho Camacho on KO Magazine. The Big Don King. Spinks Holmes, Boom Boom Mancini, and here goes Macho again. Leonard's all over the place. Oh, this is a nice one right here. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Ray Robinson. Duran versus Arguello. Hagler versus LaMotta. First one is a pick'em, man. I don't know who would win that one. Second one, I got Duran. Too much power. Arguello is one of my favorite fighters of all time. God made, somebody said to God, make me a fighter. He made Alexis Arguello. Just a beautiful fighter. Perfect boxing body, long, lean, big in the back, strong in the legs. Perfect technique. The guy had the greatest right hands I've ever seen. Just picture perfect. And this last one here, Hagler versus LaMotta. I got LaMotta. There's no knockout in this fight. It's whoever lands the most punches. These guys aren't hurting each other. LaMotta was, I think, more of an active fighter. I got LaMotta winning the fight in a split decision. Anyhow, I got a lot of these covered up, but you can see there goes the big bum Jerry Cooney. Sorry, take that back. No fighter is a bum. Jerry Cooney, the big disappointment. There I ran Barkley. Just a lot of great memories. The old days. Like I said, the Tyson stuff was huge. He was so popular. Look at that. Young Oscar De La Hoya. Special on Joe Louis. Look at this. Look at this. How big those Duran Leonard fights were. Sports Illustrated, Newsweek. Look at this big one here on Sports Illustrated on George Foreman winning the title. I think he was 48 or 49 years old. Joe Louis. Mike Tyson on the cover of Atlantic Magazine. Just great stuff. You know what? I also, my dad was a New York City sanitation worker, and he used to bring home film. 8mm, 16mm, and then later on video. They would pick up. He had to pick up in the private homes, but they had private homes, but they had businesses that the New York City sanitation guys weren't supposed to pick up, but a lot of them did. And what happened was the guys who ran the businesses would, give the guys, my father used to come home. He picked up at a hot dog factory, kosher hot dog factory. We had hot dogs, knishes. And there was a guy who had a club, and he had a bunch of boxing films and videos. And my dad passed them along to me, and I was studying these guys from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. 40s. I'm going to do a tape on the 40s. The 40s is the greatest decade in boxing history. Best fighters, no doubt about it. But anyway, my father would bring me this stuff, and I'm just a kid, and I would play this stuff, and I would I got enamored with these guys, and I actually, I don't know, maybe I have like a scientific mind or whatever, but I would just study what they were doing, how they were doing it. And that's how I picked up a lot of the stuff that these guys did in the 30s and 40s, a lot of the tricks of the trade, the strength of those fighters, the durability. So I'm able to really compare the younger fighter, the fighters of today to the fighters back then. I think with some knowledge. Also in the 80s, when the VHSs became very popular, I started taping fights. Back then, if any of you guys know, you remember, CBS, ABC and NBC would have fights on every Saturday. And then when they came out with the cable, I guess in the early 80s, I got cable TV and started taping those fights, but I would tape them and then I would go back and I would study every one of them. There's one, look at this one here. I got some of the fights that I taped. Look at this stuff. Arguello Rooney, Maron. I thought he killed Rooney in that fight. Arguello Gannon, Duran Moore. That was a tragic fight. Davey Moore was not ready for Roberto Duran. That was Duran's comeback fight after the No Mas. He had a lot to prove in front of 19,000 fans in Madison Square Garden. Boy, he took Moore apart that fight. Davey died tragically in a tragic freak accident. But man, that told you how great Duran was. I think he moved up. That was a junior middleweight fight. He moved up, and Duran was lightweight. Wasn't a welterweight. He was a lightweight, fought here at 154, and just took a very strong Davey Moore apart. Arguello, Alessandro fight. Holmes, Snipes, Maron, what a fight that was. Snipes almost took Holmes' head off. That's what made Holmes a great fighter. People don't realize how many times he got off the deck. I mean, Snipes hit him with a shot that would have knocked out any other guy. Holmes had a few fights that, I think Ron Lyle knocked him down a couple times. Just was able to get off the canvas and come back and win fights. Every fighter needs to be able to do that. Spinks Johnson fight, Pryor, Aaron Pryor, Cervantes, Hearns Duran, Hearns Hagler. These are big fights. Oh boy, Edwin Rosario, Bramble. Rosario was one of my favorite fighters. There's a guy, great lightweight. If he came along on any other time, he would have been, a perennial, lightweight champ. Just what balance. I used to study the way he fought, his balance. He had a wide stance, great body puncher, unbelievable balance. Just a sharp puncher. Just a great fighter. Cooney Spinks, what a joke that was. James the Heat Kitchen, man, against Alex Ramos. Alex Ramos was a New York City guy. Saw him on the circuit a few times. Maron, he was a guy 6. He was a 160. He was middleweight. Fought as a middleweight as an amateur. And you look at that guy and that guy's body. He looked like he was 175 pounds. He was just chiseled, big and stronger than everybody else that he fought. Just a freak. Got into the pros and didn't do too well because there were guys there with better boxers than him, and they were men. He was like a man when he was 16, 17 years old. He got up there in the pros, and there were guys just as big, as strong, and they were better boxers. But just a lot of fights here. My dad, like I said, got me into the sport. I got the bug to actually participate when I was about 15 years old. My dad got me a heavy bag, speed bag, put it up in the basement, worked out every day, bought a pair of boxing gloves, brought the boys over from the neighborhood, and we basically knocked the crap out of each other. I remember I got holes in the wall in my basement from guys going through the walls. Got really wanted to learn how to fight. I mean, I had some good basic instincts from looking at all the fighting tapes, so I knew how to hold my hands. I had good balance, good footwork before I even learned how to fight. Went to a gym in Brooklyn, a pretty well-known gym in Brooklyn on Church Avenue. Learned from got some training from some really good old-time trainers. Loved being in the gym, loved training, enjoyed sparring. And then wanted to test myself. So I had a handful of smokers around the New York City area and got to feel what it was like to go in there and actually compete. Um, Compete in front of a crowd. You know, when you're sparring, you're in the gym, you got headgear, you got big gloves. You basically know the guys you're sparring because you know all the guys in the gym. You already sized everybody up. You know exactly what you're dealing with. Man, you get in there and you compete, and you go to they used to call them these fights smokers because you went club to club. It was one club against another club. There were a lot of clubs in New York City, and so got to experience that. Um, and that was completely different. That's when you kind of learn that the old saying that you don't play boxing and you don't play boxing. I played baseball, football, and basketball, and got to understand the difference. In boxing, it's a sport. You got to live a Spartan existence to participate in that sport. You got to be in great shape physically. You got to be your body's got to be toughed up to take a pounding. And then mentally, just the mental part of it is absolutely exhausting. Taking the punishment. Every time you brought yourself in there, when you competed, you could potentially humiliate yourself. And to me, that was the biggest thing, knowing that you could get the crap kicked out of you. Not so much that you're going to endure the pain. That's not bad. It's knowing that you might get in there with a guy who just makes you look like a damn idiot. Of course, now that I'm old, I realize that any guy who steps in that ring, I don't care what he does, he gets knocked out in 1 second, he gets the crap beat out of him. I don't care. That's a guy you respect. And that's why boxing is like a fraternity. You can have a guy was a world champion, has got 100 fights. You know, there's something that him and the amateur who maybe only had 15, 20 fights under his belt, there's something that they share. They do something that nobody else had, that just about 99.99% of the population would never do. Step in the ring and get in there and fight. I remember the first time that I fought in Red Hook, Brooklyn, at a Knights of Columbus in front of a bunch of drunken Irish guys. I was on the card with a friend who was an Irish guy, and I'm Italian American, and the whole card was African American and Puerto Rican. So when we stepped in there, man, they went crazy because we were the only white guys on the card. And I'll never forget sitting down in the locker, asking myself, why am I doing this? This is crazy. And then going up and then waiting, sitting down. I had a towel over my shoulders, had the gloves on. Sitting there waiting for the fight before me to end, wishing it would never end, basically, feeling like I wanted to throw up or crap my pants all at the same time. And then climbing into that ring and realizing that, you know what, all of that mental aspect of it basically took everything out of me basically tired before the fight even started. And then when the fight started, I just could not get loose. I was so damn nervous. Just an unbelievable experience. I survived the 3 rounds, fought against a guy who was more experienced than me. I did okay, but you know what? That alone taught me a huge lesson about this sport and what it takes and the kind of dedication you got to have. I continued going to the gym, had some more smokers, but I realized, you know what? I'd be very honest with you folks. That I did not have the discipline that it took to participate in the sport. This was in the 70s. I was talented, very talented. I had really good feet, good natural rhythm, timing, reflexes. Punching power, decent, nothing great, but could throw throw combinations. I learned very quickly. The guys who trained me thought that I had come from another gym, but the reality was that they didn't know that I was looking at all these boxing tapes and breaking down fighters before I even ever put on a pair of gloves. So it came pretty quickly to me and pretty naturally. But I understood that I couldn't live 2 lives. I grew up in the 70s. I enjoyed partying. I did all the things, I won't get into detail, that kids did in the 70s. Every night. You partied every night. You drank, you did this, you did that. And I was good in all sports, and I was able to participate in baseball, football, basketball with no problem doing all those things. But you just could not do that in boxing. In boxing, when you step in that ring, everything that you did preparation-wise gets exposed, or what you failed to do gets exposed. If you don't train properly, it gets exposed immediately. And like I said, I could survive in the gym sparring because the emotional level, the psychological part of it was not as nearly as taxing. You can get in there and relax. You go in with a guy, he's working on something, you're working on something else. You're kind of pacing yourself. You're completely loose. But the competitive part of it is a completely different ball game. So I left there. I mean, I don't want to tell you my life story, but I bounced around a little bit, got into a little bit of trouble. Never finished high school, dropped out of high school, but got my GED. Wound up going away to college, and I tried to start a boxing club. I had a bunch of guys that I was, helping out training, and it was actually in the loft of my friend's gym, of my friend's house. He had a big garage in the back. And there was no heat in there or anything. This was in the middle of New York State. The temperature would go down to like 10 degrees, 5 degrees. It had to be -2, -3 in that damn loft. And by November, guys were dropping out. Half the guys didn't enjoy the training, didn't like when we started hitting each other. Guys dropped out. I wound up being up there by myself. The irony is that it took me that amount of time to really become Spartan and really get the discipline that you need for the sport. Graduated. I was 24 years old when I graduated, which is kind of old. Came home. Started working out, put all the equipment in my basement, and just never stopped. I joined Gleason's gym. Used to go there during my lunch hours and then train at home. Did that till I was 55 years old, man. Did that all those years. I'm 67 years old now. And I trained all those years and hurt my shoulder. My back started telling me, you got to stop this, you got to stop this. So I stopped. I think I stopped at 55 or 57. It was at least 10 years since I really, banged away at, I got my heavy bag and my speed bag and all my stuff in the basement, but never stopped following the sport. Just absolutely love it. That's what you hear from me. You hear that passion when I'm talking about these fights, and some of the insights that I might have from all I've seen and all I've done. I want to do something on, since I've studied these older fighters, I want to do something on, on comparing the decades. I think the best fighters ever were from the 40s. Would love to do a little tape on that. But anyhow, that's where Old School Saint's coming from, where he's been, what he's done, and why he loves this sport. I'm sure that all you guys out there, you got your own stories. It's the same thing. We all love the sport, and that's why it's great for us to get online and banter each other and kind of get into it with each other about who we think is going to win the big fight. We're a fraternity. This is a love. We all love the sport. And again, I always say anything that I say, if I argue with you guys online, it's all in good spirit because we're boxing fans and we're part of that special fraternity. Anyway, that's all I got to say today. Gonna wait for the next big fight and give you my comments. Until then, folks, listen. Remember what my dad used to say, you get knocked down, you got to get back up and throw those punches. Life is tough. Hope everything, don't quit. Never quit. Keep fighting, keep throwing punches, and always do the right thing if you can. Anyhow, this is Old School Saints signing out. Peace out, brothers and sisters.